So one of the things that I like is, progress in a society, if you will, or like the progress of technology, particularly as it relates to sort of bringing abundance into people's lives. I think is very cool. Uh, there's a point in which I was quite interested in alternate building technologies, and of course, well, part of the reason for that I think was that I just like new and weird stuff, but or strange stuff, but or unique out of the box ways of doing things. But also, I mean, housing is a tremendous expense for most people. It's probably the number one expense. I say number one. It maybe doesn't dwarf all your other living expenses, but it easily can in terms of the single biggest category. Now, in our case, we may actually spend more on food than we do on our combined housing budget, but it's probably up there kind of neck and neck when you factor in utilities and everything. So anyway, but one of the areas that's kind of interesting is energy. So it's one of those areas that's constantly evolving. So it was fascinating, some of the narratives around energy, that we're creating tons of global warming with our emissions, fossil fuel emissions, and then also the idea that we're going to run out of fossil fuel, and that's a major concern. And neither one of those narratives is perhaps as true as people thought, partly because of our adaptability in terms of human ingenuity, or the stamp of the creative from the creator. But with the alternate technologies, and I don't know what all the political ramifications are of wind and solar and nuclear, and what all the environmental consequences are. So I'm not at all an expert on what the ramifications are. But it's just interesting how that the pricing fluctuations, how something that's theoretically, something like fossil fuel scarcity, theoretically should be driving what's supposed to be going higher and higher in cost, I guess. And while it certainly has fluctuated, it's not consistently increased in the way that one might have projected back in, let's say, the 80s and or even 90s, early 2000s. So the alternate fuels, so take for instance solar. Now I'm interested to know more about the economics of solar, but here in Texas, we're seeing fields of solar panels being put in, and we're talking like really substantial electric generation going on. And you can say, well, but we're taking up good farmland for that, and it's probably true. But one thing that I ran across today was this, like, some people are grazing sheep in these solar fields, and so there you have, we're generating for humans one of the things that we're hungry for, which is power, and at the same time we are still getting agricultural production out of these solar fields, and they were talking about some stats on how the health of these ecosystems are improving by grazing sheep. Now, would they improve without the solar panels? Well, of course, naturally, right? But even with solar panels, we're probably getting a much better, more diverse ecosystem happening with grazing sheep there than it would be by traditional monoculture farming practices. And I'm not a huge anti-monoculture activist. I grew up on that type of farm, and a lot of people are fed, a lot of livestock are fed through those practices. But it is, I think, rather cool to think about this sort of symbiotic relationship that we could have, is where we could generate power for human consumption, at the same time also producing food on on that very same acreage for also for human consumption, and at the same time enhancing the health of the biome in that area. Also very cool. So anyway, it's just human thriving is an awesome thing, and while there are dangers and pitfalls and problems in our time, absolutely, I think we probably fail to properly appreciate all the good news that and all the awesome elements of human thriving that we're experiencing in our time.